The king finally broke the tense silence. Daughter, you have studied human culture longer than any of us. What did you expect would happen? Zira shifted her weight, her bioluminescent patterns dimming slightly. I expected I would take what is ours by right. I expected diplomatic immunity. Kate shook her head. Diplomatic immunity protects against accidental or minor infractions, princess, not premeditated theft. The holographic display changed to show another recording. This one of the princess researching the museum security systems weeks before the theft and making detailed plans. A cold silence fell across the chamber as the evidence mounted. I request a private audience, the king said abruptly. His gaze fixed on Kate. Protocol suggested she should decline. Earth representatives never entered private chambers with Vestralian royalty without extensive security. But Kate recognized this as a crucial moment. She nodded. Ambassador. Liz looked alarmed, but Kate gave her a subtle hand signal. The two humans had worked together long enough to communicate without words. The king rose from his massive throne, towering over everyone in the chamber. Follow, he commanded. Kate walked behind the king through a hidden doorway that opened in the crystal, while Princess Zira followed them. The three entered a small chamber that glowed with a soft blue light. The door sealed behind them. Here we can speak freely without the court listening, the king said. His voice sounded different without the translation, technology more melodic yet with harsh undertones. Why have you really come human? With such a small escort for such a serious matter? I came because this is serious, Kate replied. I came because I respect your people enough to handle this properly. The king made that rumbling sound again. You know that I could simply kill you, take my daughter and declare war on your species. Kate met his gaze steadily. You could, but you won't. Your Majesty is too wise. The Treaty of Aldebaran has brought 15 years of peace and prosperity to both our peoples. War would benefit neither. A soft chime sounded from Kate's wrist device, and she glanced at it. I should also mention that if I don't check in every 30 minutes, Earth Fleet will consider me captured and respond accordingly. The king made a sound that might have been laughter. My advisors warned me that humans always have contingencies. Kate smiled slightly. We try to be prepared. The princess stepped forward, her patterns now pulsing with anger. This is humiliating. Father, I am royal, I am divine, I cannot be subject to human justice. The king turned all four eyes toward his daughter. Silence. When I was young, the humans were nothing, just another soft species from a backwater world. Then they spread across the stars faster than any species in history. They fought when necessary. They made peace when possible, and they never broke their word. Once given, a human promise is unbreakable. This is why we signed the treaty. Despite our greater numbers, Kate watched this exchange carefully, seeing a different side to the imposing alien monarch. The princess seemed to shrink slightly under her father's gaze. But our history, our divine right. The king cut her off with a harsh sound. There was nothing divine about how your grandfather sold those artifacts to feed our people during the drought. Or have you forgotten those history lessons? He turned to Kate. What are the exact terms you offer? 3. Earth years of diplomatic confinement. Kate said no prison. The princess will reside in the Earth Embassy learning about human culture and history. She will help catalog our collection of Vestralian artifacts, sharing their cultural significance. She will not be displayed or humiliated. And after these 3 years, the king asked, she returns home with a complete education in human diplomatic processes, and perhaps a better understanding of why we value rule of law so highly. The king was quiet for several moments. Then perhaps your visit serves multiple purposes: enforcement of your laws. Yes, but also education, Kate nodded. Education works both ways, Your Majesty. The princess can learn from us, and perhaps we can learn from her. The king turned to his daughter. Do you begin to understand now, Zira? This is why I insisted you study human culture, why I sent you to their university. You thought it beneath you, but look at them. Physically weaker, shorter lived than us, yet they have spread across the galaxy while we hold only 7 systems. They have something we need. The princess looked confused. Father, I don't adaptability, the king said. Unity, purpose. Humans change. They evolve. Not just over generations, but within a single lifetime. They follow rules, not because they fear punishment, but because they believe in their systems. They trust each other. The king turned back to Kate. What would happen if your leader broke your laws? They would face justice. Kate replied. From our history, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. Richard Nixon resigned. Facing impeachment, Bill Clinton was impeached. Donald Trump was impeached twice. Even our highest leaders are not above the law. That is the foundation of our society. The king made a gesture of deep respect with his forearms. I begin to understand when they returned to the main chamber. The court waited in nervous silence. The king's advisors looked anxious, uncertain what had transpired. The king spoke, his voice echoing through the crystalline hall. My daughter, Princess Zyra, of the royal house of Vestralia, has broken human law. She will accept the consequences as outlined by Earth Representative Kate Wright. She will serve 3 years learning human ways and helping preserve our cultural heritage in their museums. The court erupted in shocked whispers but fell silent when the king raised his hand. This is my decree, he continued. Any who oppose it oppose me. Any who seek to interfere will face my wrath, Ambassador. Liz stepped forward. A wise decision. Your Majesty, we look forward to hosting the princess and strengthening the bonds between our peoples. Kate watched as the princess stood straighter, her luminescent pattern shifting to a pattern Kate had never seen before. Was it acceptance or something else? The princess was unreadable, but there was a new quality to her posture. May I speak? The princess asked. The king nodded. I, Zyra of the House of Kalzor, accept the terms offered. I will go to Earth, I will learn their ways. The princess looked directly at Kate. I maintain that the artifacts are rightfully ours, but I acknowledge that I broke human law. I should have sought legal means of return. Kate bowed her head slightly in acknowledgement. A first step, princess. The formal proceedings continued, as Ambassador Liz and the king's advisors worked through the details. Kate found herself standing near the princess as the others debated specific terms. The princess spoke quietly, so only Kate could hear. You risk much coming here like this, a small team deep in Vestralian space. Kate nodded. My job is to uphold the law regardless of risk. The princess studied her. When I was at your Oxford University, I watched humans celebrate a holiday, Patriots' Day. They honored those who died for your laws and freedoms. I did not understand then why humans would die for words on paper, and now Kate asked. The princess patterns shifted thoughtfully. I begin to see that your laws are more than words. They are your strength. We Vestralians believe our strength lies in our physical form, our technology, our divine right. But perhaps we are wrong. Kate smiled slightly. Not wrong, princess, just different. We can learn from each other. That is the true purpose of the treaty. The royal hall of Vestralia fell silent as Kate Wright entered with her head held high. Towering blue-skinned warriors parted to let the small human female pass. Their expressions a mix of disgust and fascination. The princess of their realm, Zyra, followed behind her, bound not by chains but by an agreement more binding than any physical restraint. Nobody in the vast crystalline chamber dared speak. The king of Vestralia, overlord of the 7 systems, sat rigid on his throne of living metal. His 4 eyes narrowed at the audacity of this. Human Kate stopped at the designated mark on the floor, her brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, her standard Earth Alliance uniform unremarkable except for the subtle insignia that marked her as a diplomatic enforcer. The king spoke first, his voice translated through the air by invisible tech. It has been 300 cycles since a human last stood in my court, and never has one brought royalty as a prisoner. Not a prisoner, your majesty. Kate replied, her voice calm but carrying the weight of someone who knew exactly how powerful her position was. The princess stands here by the terms of Treaty Article 7, Section 3 governing interspecies diplomatic incidents. She broke our laws. She faces our justice. The gathered aliens murmured, their multiple voices creating a sound like rushing water. "Silence," the king commanded. Then to Kate, "I could have you executed where you stand. Your species is outnumbered 1,000 to 1 in this sector alone." Kate smiled slightly. "Human mathematical inferiority has never been much of a problem for us, has it? Your Majesty, the memory of the Earth. Terran alliance crushing the mighty Vestralian armada 50 years ago hung unspoken in the air. The humans had been outnumbered 20 to 1, yet had emerged victorious. Their strange, unpredictable tactics and unwavering resolve had shocked the galaxy." Across the chamber stood Liz Parker, the human ambassador. Her face betrayed no emotion, yet her eyes watched every movement of the gathered alien nobles. She had served as Earth's voice in this sector for 15 years, and understood the delicate balance they were treading. The Princess Zira, daughter of King Kalzor, lifted her chin defiantly. She stood nearly 2 feet taller than Kate, her blue skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that revealed her royal lineage. Her forearms were relaxed, yet anyone who knew Vestralian body language could see the tension in her posture. What crime could possibly warrant this treatment of royalty? The king demanded, his secondary arms flexing in irritation. Kate nodded to her assistant, who activated a holographic display. For the court to see, a recording began to play, showing the princess in disguise entering the new Chicago Museum of Interstellar History. The recording continued as Zira disabled security systems and removed 3 ancient artifacts from their protective cases. Theft of historical artifacts valued at over 20 million credits, Kate stated. The items were legally purchased by Earth 2 centuries ago from the Vestralian royal treasury during the drought times. The king shifted uncomfortably on his throne. The drought times were a shameful period in Vestralian history, when the previous king had sold cultural treasures to feed his people. The princess spoke for the first time. "They were stolen from our temples long before that sale. Our ancestors created them. They belong with our people." Kate turned slightly to regard the alien royal. Her expression softened somewhat. "Princess Zira, the University Museum had legal ownership. Those items were purchased in good faith 2 centuries ago. Your actions, regardless of your beliefs, were theft under Earth law." The king shifted on his throne. "This is absurd. A royal of Vestralia standing trial on Earth for reclaiming her heritage. Not absurd. Your Majesty, just law." Kate replied. "Perhaps on your worlds, royalty stands above it. On Earth, everyone answers to the same rules." The gathered court hissed at what they perceived as an insult. On Vestralia, the royal family was considered divine. Their will was absolute, their actions beyond question. The very idea of a royal facing consequences was unthinkable. One of the king's advisors, a female named Megan, stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty, I advise caution. The humans have specific protections under the Treaty of Aldebaran. Remember what happened to the Gorlan hierarchy when they underestimated Earth." The memory hung in the air unspoken. The Gorlan fleet reduced to debris, all because they had violated the treaty by detaining a single human merchant. The king studied Kate, his ancient eyes unreadable. For a long moment, the entire chamber held its breath. "Tell me, human," he finally said, "what punishment does Earth demand for this crime? Under normal circumstances, 6 Earth years of imprisonment." Ambassador Liz stated, "But given the princess status, we are prepared to accept restitution and a formal apology instead." The hall erupted, Vestralians shouting and gesturing with multiple limbs, their honor challenged by the very suggestion. The king raised one massive hand and silence fell instantly. "You demand an apology from royalty, not demand," Kate corrected offer as an alternative to standard justice. The princess stepped forward, breaking protocol. "I will not apologize for taking what is mine." Kate turned to face her directly. "This is the heart of it, Princess. Your belief that your bloodline puts you above consequences. This is why humans have survived among species physically superior in every way. We believe in systems, not individuals, rules that apply to everyone regardless of birth." Zira's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of confusion in her species. "You would truly imprison me. A royal you risk war for this. Ambassador Liz stepped forward again, her voice gentle yet firm. The treaty your father signed 15 years ago explicitly states that citizens of each world are subject to the laws of whatever world they visit. You studied at Oxford University, Princess. You know our ways. You chose to break our laws. The king made a low rumbling sound deep in his chest, a sound that made several of the court officials back away. Slowly, Kate recognized it as the rare sound of a Vestralian monarch thinking deeply, truly considering options beyond the expected. The princess looked between her father and Kate, her luminescent patterns changing rapidly in a way that suggested growing uncertainty. Perhaps, for the first time, she was beginning to understand the seriousness of her position. 3 weeks later, Kate stood on the observation deck of the Earth diplomatic vessel Horizon. The stars streaked by as they traveled at FTL speeds toward Earth. She had expected resistance when departing Vestralia with the princess. Instead, the king had provided a royal honor guard to escort them to the edge of Vestralian space, a symbolic gesture acknowledging the legitimacy of the human legal process. Princess Zira entered the observation deck, her tall figure moving with the natural grace of her species. She wore a simplified version of her royal garments adapted for the human ship's environment. "Did you expect my father to change his mind?" Zira asked, standing beside Kate to look out at the stars. Kate shook her head. "I expected him to be a leader, and leaders make difficult decisions." The princess was silent for a moment. "I have been thinking about what you said in the court, about systems over individuals. It is the opposite of how we govern." Kate nodded. "Your system values bloodlines and divine right. Ours values institutions and collective agreements. Neither is inherently better. Just different approaches to the same problem. The same problem." Zira questioned, "How to organize a society?" Kate replied, "How to balance freedom with order, rights with responsibilities." The princess pattern shifted in what Kate had come to recognize as thoughtfulness. "You humans are so brief. Your lives pass in moments compared to ours. Yet you build systems designed to last centuries. Why care about what happens after you are gone?" Kate smiled. "You just identified one of the most fundamental differences between our species. Vestralians, with your 1,000-year lifespans, think in terms of personal legacy. Humans with our shorter lives think in terms of collective legacy. What will humanity achieve long after we're gone?" On the bridge of the Horizon, Captain Susan Miller received a priority transmission from Earth Command. She frowned at the message, then opened the ship's intercom. "Lieutenant, write report to the bridge immediately." Kate excused herself from the princess and made her way quickly to the bridge. Captain Miller was waiting, her expression grave. "What's happened?" Kate asked, noting the tension among the bridge crew. Captain Miller gestured to her ready room. Kate followed her inside. "We just received word from intelligence," Miller said once the door closed. "Extremist elements in the Vestralian military are planning an operation to recover the princess. They believe the king's decision has weakened their empire. They plan to intercept us before we reach Earth." Space Kate processed this information. "How reliable is this intelligence?" Very Miller replied, "It's from our deep cover operative in the Vestralian High Command. They move against the king's wishes." Kate paced the small room. "Options," Miller sighed. "We could increase speed, but we're already at maximum FTL. We could send for a military escort, but the nearest battle group is 3 days away. We could return to Vestralia, but that undermines everything you've accomplished." Kate nodded. "Agreed. We continue to Earth. The treaty must be upheld. What forces are we likely to face?" Miller activated a display showing tactical projections based on the intelligence we might encounter. 1, maybe 2 Vestralian battle cruisers, rogue elements, not official military. They outgun us significantly. Kate studied the information. "We're a diplomatic vessel, not a warship, but we have some defensive capabilities." The captain nodded. "Enough to hold them off briefly. Not enough to win an engagement, inform Earth Command." Kate decided request immediate assistance, but we stay on course. The princess remains in protective custody. Do not inform her of the threat, yet I need to consider how to approach this. Kate returned to the observation deck where Princess Zyra waited. The princess studied Kate's expression. Something has happened. Kate considered lying, but decided against it. We have received intelligence that some elements of your military disagree with your father's decision. They may attempt to intercept this vessel. The princess patterns shifted rapidly, showing alarm. Father would never allow this. Kate nodded. I believe you. But sometimes individuals act against their leaders' wishes. Happens in human society too. The princess was quiet for a moment, then asked, What will you do? We continue to Earth. Kate replied, The treaty must be upheld. You would risk your life for this treaty. Zyra asked. Kate smiled slightly. Not just for the treaty, for what it represents. For the principle that we are all equal under law. The princess moved to the observation window, her reflection showing complex emotions in her bioluminescent patterns. My people value strength above all else. They see your adherence to principles as weakness. Not weakness, Kate corrected. Discipline. It takes greater strength to follow principles when it's difficult than to abandon them. When convenient. Later that night, while most of the crew slept, Kate was awakened by the ship's alert system. Captain Miller's voice came through the comm system. Battle station's unidentified vessel approaching at high speed. Kate dressed quickly and headed for the bridge. As she passed the guest quarters where Princess Zyra was staying, the door opened. The princess stood there, her patterns showing concern. What is happening? Kate hesitated, then decided the princess deserved the truth. It's happening sooner than expected. Likely a Australian cruiser. The princess stepped into the corridor. I must come with you to the bridge. Kate started to refuse, then reconsidered the princess might provide valuable insight. She nodded, and they proceeded to the bridge together. Captain Miller raised an eyebrow at the princess' presence but said nothing. The main screen showed a massive Australian battlecruiser approaching rapidly, its weapon systems active. Open communications, Captain Miller ordered. The screen shifted to show a Australian military commander. His patterns identified him as Admiral Crix, a known hardliner in the Australian hierarchy. Human vessel, his translated voice boomed. You have illegally detained a member of the royal family. Surrender the princess immediately or face destruction. Captain Miller looked at Kate. This is your operation. Lieutenant Kate stepped forward. Admiral Crix, I am Lieutenant Catherine Wright of Earth Diplomatic Corps. Princess Zyra is under the protection of the Treaty of Aldebaran, Article 7, Section 3. She faces legal consequences for actions taken on Earth. The king has acknowledged the legitimacy of this process. The admiral sneered. The king grows weak. Human law has no authority over Australian royalty. Before Kate could respond, Princess Zyra stepped into view, her patterns blazing with royal authority. Admiral Crix, I command you to stand down. The admiral's patterns showed shock. Your Highness, we come to rescue you. I do not require rescue. Zyra replied, I have accepted the human terms. I go to Earth willingly under the treaty. My father signed the treaty. You are now violating. Respect for royalty ran deep in Australian society. The admiral seemed confused. Your Highness, surely you are under duress. I am not. Zyra stated, her voice carrying the weight of her royal lineage. Return to Australia immediately. That is a direct order from your princess. The admiral hesitated, his patterns showing conflict. I have my orders, Your Highness, orders that come from those who wish to preserve our empire's strength. Who Zyra demanded, who dares countermand the king's decree? The admiral did not answer. You dishonor yourself and our empire, Zyra continued. My father will hear of this, Captain Miller. Please send all records of this conversation to the Australian Royal Court. Kate watched with growing admiration as the princess took control of the situation. The admiral seemed increasingly uncomfortable. I was told you were taken against your will, that these humans had manipulated evidence to force you into their justice system. Zyra shook her head. I took items from their museum. Items I believed belonged to our people. But I did so knowing their laws. I must face the consequences, as would any Vestralian who broke our laws. The Admiral looked between the princess and Kate, his patterns showing deep confusion. Admiral Crick's pattern shifted erratically as he processed the princess's words. The crew of the Horizon watched in tense silence as the Admiral struggled with his decision. Kate stepped forward again. Admiral, your princess has given you a direct order. Will you obey your royal family or those who seek to undermine them? The Admiral's secondary eyes blinked rapidly. Your Highness, he said finally. I must verify this is truly your wish and not coercion. Send a shuttle, Zyra offered. I will meet with you personally aboard the human vessel. You may bring 2 guards. I will bring Lieutenant Wright. We will speak face to face. Kate glanced at Captain Miller, who gave a subtle nod of approval. The Admiral agreed, though his patterns showed continued uncertainty. A shuttle will arrive in 30 minutes. When the transmission ended, Captain Miller turned to Kate. Are you sure about this? They could simply take the princess by force once they board. Kate looked at Zyra. The princess stood tall, her patterns now calm and controlled. She had shown unexpected leadership in the confrontation. I trust the princess, Kate said. But let's be prepared. Secure all vital systems and have security teams on standby. Zyra turned to Kate. You trust me after I broke your laws? Kate nodded. I trust that you understand what is at stake. If the treaty fails, if law is replaced by force, then both our peoples lose something valuable. As they prepared for the Admiral's arrival, Kate and Zyra discussed their strategy. The Admiral serves. My uncle Princess Zyra explained as they walked toward the shuttle bay. My father's brother, who has always believed our empire should expand by conquest, not diplomacy. He sees the treaty with Earth as weakness. Kate processed this new information. So this is a political move against your father, using you as the excuse. Zyra nodded her patterns, confirming, my uncle cannot move directly against the king. But by rescuing me against father's wishes, he undermines royal authority. Makes father appear weak before the council. The Vestralian shuttle docked 30 minutes later. Admiral Crix emerged with 2 heavily armed guards. Their weapons, though powered down, were clearly visible, a subtle threat. The meeting took place in the ship's conference room. Kate and Zyra on one side, the Admiral and his guards on the other. Captain Miller stood near the door with 2 human security officers. Admiral Crix began his patterns, showing proper deference. Your Highness, I must confirm you are here of your own will. I broke human law. Zyra stated simply, I knew the consequences. I have accepted them. The king, my father, has approved this arrangement. It upholds the treaty and preserves peace between our peoples. But your royal status, the Admiral protested, surely it places you above human law. Zyra looked at Kate, then back to the Admiral. I have learned something important about humans, Admiral. Their laws apply equally to all. This is not weakness as we have believed. It is strength. Their leaders, they're wealthy, they're privileged, all face the same justice. When they sign treaties, they mean every word. The Admiral shifted uncomfortably. Your uncle believes. My uncle seeks power. Zyra interrupted her patterns, showing royal displeasure. Tell him that I have seen the human way. I have chosen to honor the treaty. And tell him that when I return after 3 Earth years, I will remember who supported the king's decree and who did not. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. The princess would one day be queen. Those who stood against her now would face consequences. Later, Admiral Crix lowered his eyes, a gesture of submission. I understand, Your Highness. I will return to Vestralia and report that you go to Earth willingly. As they prepared to leave, the Admiral hesitated. Your Highness, may I ask a personal question? Zyra nodded. What is it about these humans that has changed your mind? You who once spoke against the treaty with such passion. Zyra considered her answer carefully. When I studied on Earth, I saw only their weakness, their short lives, their fragile bodies. I did not understand their strength. Now I begin to see they build systems greater than themselves. They follow principles even when difficult. They keep their word, even when costly. Strength comes in many forms, Admiral. Remember that. After the Admiral departed, the tension on the ship gradually eased. Kate found Captain Miller on the bridge, staring at the tactical display. The Vestralian cruiser was moving away, returning to their territory. That was well handled, Lieutenant Miller said. But I don't think this is over. Your princess made enemies today. Kate nodded. We maintain alert status until we reach Earth space. Over the next several days, Kate spent more time with Princess Zira, learning about Vestralian culture and politics. In turn, she explained human history and governance. They sat in the ship's lounge one evening watching the stars streak by. Your people have had many forms of government. Kate explained. Monarchies, dictatorships, republics, democracies, we've tried them all. Some worked better than others. Zira patterns shifted in curiosity. And which do you believe is best? Kate smiled. None is perfect. Each has strengths and weaknesses. The key is that they evolve. They change as our understanding grows. In your current system, Zira asked, representative democracy with constitutional protections for individual rights. Kate replied, it's messy, slow, frustrating, but it has built-in mechanisms for change, without violence. Zira was quiet for a moment. How strange to build a system expecting it to change. We Vestralians value permanence, tradition. Continuity, Kate nodded. That's the fundamental difference. Your people with 1,000-year lifespans build systems to last unchanged. We, with our brief lives, build systems designed to evolve later that week as they approach the edge of Earth-controlled space. The ship's sensors detected multiple vessels approaching. Captain Miller called Kate to the bridge. We have company, she said, pointing to the tactical display. 3 Vestralian battlecruisers blocking our path. Kate felt her heart sink. Had Admiral Crix betrayed them after all? But as she studied the display, she noticed something odd. The ship's formations, their energy signatures. They were different from standard Vestralian military. Princess Zira, who had joined them, confirmed Kate's suspicion. Those are not military vessels. They bear the markings of House Jorax, my uncle's personal fleet. He acts outside royal authority. Captain Miller looked grim. They're hailing us. The main screen activated, showing a Vestralian male, his patterns indicating nobility, though not royalty. His resemblance to the king and princess was subtle but unmistakable. Prince Jorax. Zira said, her voice cold. The prince smiled, a gesture he had clearly practiced for dealing with humans. I come to rescue my beloved niece from human captivity. Captain Miller glanced at Kate, who stepped forward. Prince Jorax, your niece is under the protection of the Treaty of Aldebaran. She travels to Earth in accordance with the king's decree. The prince waved dismissively. My brother grows soft in his old age. The treaty with humans weakens our empire. I cannot allow a royal princess to be subjected to human justice. It diminishes all. Vestralian Zira stepped forward. Uncle, your actions constitute treason. The king has spoken. The prince's patterns showed amusement. Niece, you have been corrupted by human thinking. No royal can commit treason. I act for the good of the empire. Captain, Miller spoke quietly to Kate. They are moving to surround us. Their weapons are powered up. We can't fight 3 battle cruisers. Kate nodded. Send an emergency signal to Earth Fleet, she whispered. How long until reinforcements could arrive? Miller shook. Her head hours at best too late. Kate assessed their options quickly. The Horizon was a diplomatic vessel with limited defensive capabilities against 3 battle cruisers. They had no chance in direct combat. They needed to buy time. Prince Jorax continued, his patterns showing increasing confidence. You will transfer my niece to my vessel immediately, or I will take her by force and destroy your ship as a lesson to all humans who dare to impose their laws on Vestralian royalty. Before Kate could respond, Princess Zira stepped forward, her patterns blazing with royal authority. Uncle, you dishonor our house. I invoke the royal right of challenge. The bridge crew looked confused, but the prince reacted with shock, his patterns shifting dramatically. Niece, you cannot be serious. I am entirely serious, Zira replied. By ancient law, I challenge your authority to countermand the king's decree. Let the ancestors judge between us. Kate glanced at Captain Miller, who looked equally puzzled. Prince Jorax recovered quickly, his patterns stabilizing. You invoke ancient law while hiding behind humans, how convenient. I do not hide. Zara stated. I will come to your vessel alone to complete the challenge. As is my right. Kate stepped forward quickly. Princess, this is unwise. Zara turned to Kate, her voice quiet but firm. Trust me, Lieutenant. As you trusted me with Admiral Crix. Kate wanted to object, but something in the princess' demeanor stopped her. The princess had a plan. Captain Miller pulled Kate aside. We can't let her go alone. It's too dangerous. Kate studied the princess, who stood tall, her patterns showing absolute confidence. This is Vestralian internal politics, Captain. Something is happening that we don't fully understand. I will depart in 30 minutes. Zara told her uncle. Prepare the challenge. Chamber as required by law. The prince nodded, his patterns now showing calculation. Very well, niece, I accept your challenge. The transmission ended. Kate turned to the princess. What just happened? What is this challenge? Zara patterns shifted to what Kate had come to recognize as something like a human smile. The royal right of challenge is ancient law, older than space travel. It allows a royal to challenge the actions of another royal through the ancestral judgment. But what does that mean, Kate? Pressed, it means Zira explained that my uncle must prepare the challenge chamber, a sacred space where royal disputes are settled, and it means that while he prepares, I have time to contact my father. Kate's eyes widened. Understanding dawned. The king doesn't know what your uncle is doing. Exactly. Zira confirmed. My uncle acts without royal sanction against the king's decree. By invoking the challenge, I force him to follow ancient protocol, which requires time and notification of the royal court captain. Miller smiled. That buys us the time we need for Earthfleet to arrive. Zira nodded. We must send a message to Vestralia immediately, to the royal court. The king must know what happens here. Kate quickly arranged for a priority transmission to Vestralia. Diplomatic codes ensured it would reach the royal court directly. Within 20 minutes, they received a response. The king's face appeared on the main screen, his patterns showing controlled fury. My brother does this, he asked. Yes, father. Zira confirmed. I have invoked the royal right of challenge to buy time. The king nodded. You have done well, daughter. The royal fleet moves now. Prince Jorax acts without sanction. His ships are ordered to stand down. Captain Miller checked the tactical display. Vestralian ships aren't moving. They maintain battle positions. The king saw her concern. My brother has supporters in the fleet, Captain, but they will not fire on royal vessels, and royal vessels approach. Now Kate looked at the princess with newfound respect. You knew your father would send the fleet. Zira pattern shifted in what might have been a shrug. My uncle has sought power for centuries. This is not his first attempt, merely his most bold. My father watches him always. 2 hours later, the standoff continued. Prince Jorax's ship still surrounded the horizon, but had not attacked Earth. Fleet was still hours away, but on the long-range sensors, 6 Vestralian royal warships approached rapidly. Prince Jorax appeared on the screen again, his patterns now showing anxiety. Niece, I grow impatient. Come aboard for the challenge, or I will take you by force. Zira stood calmly, her pattern steady. Uncle, you know royal vessels approach. You know father has condemned your actions. Stand down, now, and you may yet retain your position. Perhaps even your life. The prince's patterns shifted erratically. The king grows weak. The treaty with humans diminishes our empire. We should rule the sector, not partner with lesser species. Zira shook her head. It is you who are weak, uncle. You who fear change, you who cannot see the strength in diversity and cooperation. Your way leads to isolation and decline. Kate watched this exchange with fascination. The princess had transformed from the defiant royal, who had stolen artifacts, to someone with genuine diplomatic skill. Suddenly alarms blared through the ship. Captain Miller checked the sensors. One of the prince's ships is powering weapons, she reported. They're targeting our engine's evasive maneuvers, Miller ordered. The horizon shuddered as it accelerated away from the Vestralian ships, but the battle cruisers were faster, more maneuverable. They maintained their positions on the screen. Prince Jorax's patterns showed determination. I will not be denied. I will not let humans dictate to Vestralian. Zira stepped close to the screen. Uncle, this is your last chance. Stand down or face the consequences. The prince sneered. What consequences? Your human friends are defenseless. The royal fleet is still an hour away. Captain Miller spoke quietly to Kate. We're being targeted. Weapon lock from all 3 ships. Kate nodded grimly, but before she could respond, Princess Zira turned to the ship's communications officer. Open a channel to all Vestralian vessels, she commanded. The officer looked to Captain Miller, who nodded. Zira stood straight, her patterns shifting to the Royal Command configuration that Kate had seen only once before. When the king had issued his decree in the court, attention all Vestralian vessels. This is Princess Zira, daughter of King Kalzor. I speak with royal authority by ancient law and treaty obligation. I command you to stand down. Prince Jorax acts against the king's decree, against the treaty, and against the empire. Those who follow him commit treason against the crown. Those who stand down now will receive royal clemency. For several tense moments nothing happened. Then one of the Vestralian ships broke formation. Its weapons powered down. Prince Jorax roared with anger. What are you doing? The ship's captain appeared on a split screen. Your Highness, my crew will not fire on a vessel containing the princess. We stand down. The second ship followed suit, its captain making a similar declaration. The prince's face contorted. With rage, cowards, weaklings. The third ship, the prince's flagship, maintained its aggressive posture. Zira spoke again. Uncle, you stand alone. The royal fleet approaches. Earth. Fleet. Approaches. Surrender. Now for a moment it seemed the prince might comply. Then his patterns shifted to something Kate had never seen before. Something primal, dangerous. If I cannot rescue you from these humans, niece, then no one shall. The prince turned away from the screen. Command fire all weapons. Captain Miller shouted, brace for impact, but the expected barrage never came. On the tactical display, the prince's flagship weapons remained powered but inactive. The ship's weapons officer appeared on the screen. Your Highness, we cannot fire upon the princess. It violates our most sacred laws. Prince Jorax screamed in frustration as his own crew refused his orders. 3 days later, Kate stood in the arrival hall of Earth Diplomatic Headquarters in Geneva. The Vestralian royal fleet had arrived in time to take Prince Jorax into custody. His attempted coup had failed completely. The king had reaffirmed the Treaty of Aldebaran and strengthened ties with Earth. Princess Zira now stood beside Kate as they prepared for the formal reception. The princess would begin her 3-year term helping catalog Vestralian artifacts and learning about human governance. I underestimated your people, Zira said quietly as they waited. Systems, not individuals. Principles, not power. I begin to understand. Kate smiled. You handled yourself well, princess. You showed true leadership. Zira patterns shifted in what Kate now recognized as contemplation. Perhaps in 3 years when I return to Vestralia, I will bring some human ideas with me. Our empire has existed for 10,000 years, but perhaps it is time for it to evolve. Kate nodded as they walked into the reception hall together. Human and Vestralian side by side, she thought about how far they had come in such a short time. From adversaries in a courtroom to allies facing danger. 2 different species. 2 different approaches to life. Yet finding common ground. The Earth Diplomatic Corps greeted Princess Zira with formal respect. Ambassador Liz Parker stepped forward. Welcome to Earth, Your Highness. We have much to learn from each other. Zira bowed slightly in the human manner, her patterns showing sincere appreciation. I look forward to learning about your justice system, your governance, and perhaps sharing some Vestralian wisdom in return. Kate watched from the side of the room as humans and Vestralians mingled cautiously but with growing ease. The princess moved among them with grace, answering questions about her culture, sharing insights. A young human diplomat approached Kate. Lieutenant Wright, I heard what happened out there. How you faced down 3 Vestralian battlecruisers. How did you know the princess would help? How did you know it would work? Kate smiled. I didn't know for certain, but I believed in the power of principles. The princess saw the strength in our system not despite its constraints but because of them. In the end, that's humanity's greatest achievement, not our technology, not our military power, but our belief that rules apply to everyone.